Hello, Yeshua Network. Nathan Wheeler here, founder of the page. Thank you for tuning in and watching this video. I do ask that you at least watch the beginning part here of what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you'll watch the whole video, but to give kind of an update about what's going on with the page, what's going on with myself. And as people are logging on, I'm going to kind of just give a general explanation of a GoFundMe that we are doing, and it is our first official charity fundraise for a cause for foster children and families that experience some type of disaster, whether their house burns down or flood or something along these lines, to where basically they lose their home and all their belongings. The program is called Department of Child Services. Yes, it highlights, of course, like foster children, orphans and things like that, but it does help families as well. And it is based, this particular division that we at Yeshua Network are going to be supporting is Middle Tennessee, mainly because it is our first time ever doing such a thing. And I myself have gone and met with them multiple times. I've met with the leadership, and it's a real program, and the funds are used exactly as they say they're going to be used. And so I'm able to vet them, in short. So yeah, there is a GoFundMe link on this video you are watching. That GoFundMe link, there will not be a single penny of that, whatever is raised. I put $1,000. I figured that's quite a good number for us to raise. We are a significantly large group, but anything you raise or anything you put towards that on there, it's going to go 100% to the Department of Child Services for clothing, food, school supplies, building beds. There's 400 children currently in Middle Tennessee that do not have beds to sleep on, not even a mattress. And of course, with that bedding, with the beds that we make, you'll see pictures there of us making these wooden frame beds. And we do get the mattresses as well. We also provide them blankets and pillows. I myself am part of the physical manufacturing of the beds, the physical delivery of the food, the clothes, shoes, backpacks, clothing, school supplies, and things like that. So I'm able to go. I will probably take pictures, not to boast or to say, oh, look at us, but just so that you guys know that the funds that you provide are going to exactly what you're donating them to. So it's more of a transparency thing, and I will reiterate that every step of the way, that we're not doing this to boast or say, ooh, look at us, but rather to say your funds are indeed going where we at Yeshua Network said they would go. So not a penny of that will go towards me, or anybody here at Yeshua Network. That will go strictly and solely to that cause. And again, this is our first time doing it, and currently we just have $1,000. I thought it would be nice if we had, I think, a realistic mark to hit, and there's no time frame, but I think it would be great if we could get it to them kind of during the holiday season before the new year. But I know that, there's tons of expenses for the new year, so if it goes over into 2023, again, no rush. Whatever amount that comes in, I will take it in chunks if it comes in chunks, so that we can support that cause and help those children. I write a little bit about the type of children that they help. I hope you will go to the GoFundMe and just read what I wrote there and see the pictures for yourself that I personally took. And it's quite heart-wrenching. I know that there's stories like this all over the world, but like I said, this is our first time ever doing this, and this is the location in which I am able to personally vet. So that's why we're starting with this. We start small, start close to home. And if this works out, and it seems to be a thing that we here at Yeshua Network do as a community, and it seems to take root, then I believe that there will be many more fruits to come. The other thing about this video that we are going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about, is a company of mine called Simbeosys that I have been asked to start by the local government as well here in Tennessee. There is a massive problem that they're having with landfills. They also have an issue with job security, food security, and things like that. And I have met with them. They asked me to sit on a leadership committee. I did for about, I don't know, it was like, I think 20 something meetings. And I, by the grace of God, had come up with a solution to the problem. And so that problem solution, the solution to that problem is called Simbeosys. Many of you know about it already, but if you're just tuning in and you're learning about this for the first time, I'm going to talk this time not about what Simbeosys necessarily does, although that will be mentioned, but more about the spiritual aspect of what it means to me and why it's a huge part of what I'm praying to the Lord about over the next 40 days. When I do kind of my 40-day hiatus from Yeshua Network here, to just kind of be still and be with the Lord and seek his guidance on this particular crossroads season of my life that I'm in, on exactly what he wants me to do and how he wants me to do it. So jumping into it, this is like kind of the second part of the video. I hope that, you at least watch that first part about the kids and the cause that we're supporting. This is the second part, and there will be a third part too, which talks a little bit more about what to expect for the page in the next 40 days. But I did want to talk about Simbeosys because I think a lot of people, especially when they hear me talk about it, rightfully so, and hear me talk kind of about my background in the last few videos I've made. I'm talking about more of my earthly background, not necessarily my ministry background, but like what I did for a living, how I was a serial entrepreneur, and things like that. So I believe that as I spoke about it, there are people out there who possibly saw the earthly side of Simbeosys and saw that it has the potential of being a highly financially successful opportunity or venture, I should say. But there's a spiritual aspect, which is for me the motivator. And I wanted to share what that was because I was explaining it to my friend Alex, who does the entire Bible read-through series with us here. And once I was explaining to him the spiritual aspect of it, he said it really, really changed his entire perception of what Simbeosys was and what it meant to me. And he had a hard time seeing past the dollar signs, if you will, of the money that could be generated from it. He did see that it was a good thing that would help the world and the environment and stuff like that. But when I explained to him the spiritual aspect of it and what I perceive could be its role, if you will, in the world and the times we live in, he suggested it was something I share with you guys because he felt that it would possibly have the impact on you that it had on him, which is it really changed his perspective. So that's what I'm going to share now. The Bible obviously tells us that as the end time grows near, there's going to be war and famine, pestilence, and things like this. There's going to be hatred of certain types of people, specifically God's people. There's going to be persecution on the highest level. There's going to be kingdoms that fall, nations that get destroyed. There's going to be all sorts of earthly problems like, natural disasters or volcanoes, storms, possibly quote unquote stars falling from the sky, if you will, and whatever kind of damage that does. And I perceive and am persuaded that the reason why the Bible tells us these things is so that we who live in those times will be able to maneuver accordingly, to prepare ourselves according to what the Bible is warning us for. I believe that that's why God gives prophecy. It's so that if you are in a time where things are going to get rough, like we see with Joseph, where he helps Pharaoh store up the food and make sure that, everybody survives, or as many people can survive as possible during the famine that comes. And that to me is what Simbeosys is. And to me, it's of a biblical scale. So this effort is, if you don't know, I'm going to try to explain this very simply, and I apologize if I'm repeating this for anybody. But throughout the world, modern farming techniques that have been created since the industrial era have have ruined the soil. And to put it very simply, that about 100 years ago, we had about a 15% biological soil base. So that means that if you took a handful of soil in wherever you were standing basically on earth that had life, plants or anything growing from it, 15% of whatever you held in your hand would be microbiology. It'd be small living organisms. It's pretty remarkable that 15% of what you'd be holding would be living. It wouldn't just be sand and mud and dirt. It would be billions and billions of living organisms. And those billions and billions of living organisms are what literally heal and cause our planet to live. Without them, there is no life on Earth. It's kind of like, I think people understand that about the bees, but also that goes for microbiology in the soil. And our farming practices all around the world, not just in the United States, have depleted that microbiology down to roughly around 2% in the last 100 years. And that's dangerously low. In fact, the United Nations, farm organizations all around the world, farmers, scientists have all stand in agreement. This is not one of those things where like half the population believes, this is the case and then half the population doesn't. The statement I'm about to make is blanketly agreed upon by all farmers, scientists, and basically like food security experts. We only have about 60 years left of farmable land because of the way that we have treated our earth and our soil through farming practices. I'm not talking about pollution or anything like that. I'm not talking about the air. I'm talking about the way we put plants and reap plants from the ground. We have actually killed that microbiology. And so we are going to be without farmland all around the world in 60 years from now, if the world is even still here in 60 years from now, but we will be gone. I mean, and the other thing is it doesn't happen like one day it's gone. We're already getting to the point where farmers are having an extremely difficult time growing things from the ground. And so a lot of the food that we get might look pretty, but it's depleted of a lot of nutritional value because those nutritional values come from that microbiology. So the crazy thing is, and this is a super wonderful and amazing good news. It took us 100 years to deplete the soil from 15% microbiology down to 2%. It took us 100 years. But with a certain type of practice called regenerative farming or regenerative agriculture, we can actually replace that 15%. We can get back to about 12 to 15% in 7 to 9 years. So because of the way and how fast microbiology can duplicate and can grow, we actually have the ability to fix the land. And it just so happens that I happen to be friends with some of the leading world experts who actually do that. Not people who oversee government committees who say they know. I'm talking about the people who are out there on the farms, meeting with farmers all around the world, meeting with national leaders so that their farmers will heal their lands. It just so happens that I happen to be friends with these people, and I don't even know how. I come from LA, so it doesn't even make sense that I know these people. But as God would have it, I've crossed paths with these folks, and they are perfect. They are perfect for the role that they're going to be playing and are playing already. But the one thing is that they need is more resources. They need more funds. They need more awareness and more exposure. And even though this is something that affects every life on earth, whether it's animals or whether it's humans, it's ironically enough not mainstream news. 60 more years of farmland is, for some reason, not as important as the melting polar caps. And that seems kind of weird to me. I do think that farmlands should be more significant than melting polar caps. We can all move inland if the ocean rises, and we can deal with the weather with our technology. But what we can't do is we can't farm without growable soil, or farmable soil. So this is the number one thing, along with waste management. Right now, at least in America, 40 to up to 60% of our landfills, where we take all of our trash and dump it in one spot and bury it and push it down to the ground, 40 to 60% of that is food waste or biological waste, whether that can include paper, cardboard, some things like that. But it's mostly food waste, like table scraps and things like that. Produce that we didn't eat, it went bad before we could get to it. So if you buy, let's say, 10 bananas, maybe you eat 6, but you throw 4 away. So, that's just an example, right? Most Americans, Harvard, Stanford, and MIT, and a couple of other colleges have done studies, and they say that on average, the American throws away roughly around 40% to 60% of the produce they buy at the store. So you go and you'll buy the food, and you'll end up not eating everything you buy. So basically, you think you're buying a banana for, let's just say, theoretically, like $1. But in reality, out of the 10 bananas that you'll buy, and this is just, I'm just sticking with this example for bananas for some reason, but out of the 10 bananas that you'll buy for, let's say, $1 a piece, which it's not that much, but let's just say for math reasons, in actuality, you're throwing $4 of those dollars to $4 of those dollars to $5 of those dollars in the trash, right? You're throwing 4 or 5 of those bananas away, which is $4 to $5. So in this reality, I think that would be something more like 50 cents or 30 cents a banana. I have no idea, but it's pretty crazy. If you were doing that with any other thing in your life, like if you went and you bought, a remote for your TV, and when you bought, you'd had to buy like 3 of them, because by the time you were done using your remote for the week, 2 of them would already be in the trash. Like if we had this spending habit on any other part of our life, we would consider ourselves completely mad. But with food, we don't even think of it, because food goes bad. What can you do? There are things you can do. And that's another thing that this company that I would be creating, Simbeosys, would actually help people. It would stop people from, it would give people an opportunity to stop them from throwing away their produce, because of the way that you can, in our modern time, keep produce longer, almost indefinitely, without losing its nutritional value. That's the big thing. Most keeping of produce loses its nutritional value in the first 2 to 3 days. And so a lot of the produce that we get is 3 weeks old by the time it hits the shelf at the grocery store, which means it's already lost 75% of its nutritional value. So not only are we filling the landfills, we're killing the soil, we're losing the nutrition in our food, and then we lose 75% of that nutrition by the time it gets to our mouth. So we're basically eating like just sub-vitamin carbon. We're just eating charcoal almost. Like it's insane how little nutrition is in our food, which is why we're the generation of supplements, because our food is depleted. And a lot of people think that our food is depleted because the government has made it so, because they want it so, because they want us sick. In all reality, I'm not saying one way or another what government wants what for its people, but I will say that microbiology dying in the soil from us poisoning it and from us raking it with these giant claws and breaking the soil, we break the fungus chain that transfers the nutrition between plants. And by doing that, we have literally killed ourselves. We are killing ourselves at a very, very slow rate. And so Simbeosys' goal is to take the pre-existing successful ways of replenishing that soil along with and implement them to the world, right? We want to implement them first right here in Middle Tennessee, where I've already got government contracts, as a test run, just to show people what it can do, to invite world leaders into Tennessee, and for us to give a template of it in practice, so that they don't have to go back to their country and go, well, we think it will work. Like, we'll be able to actually show them how and why it works, and how many years our experts have been doing it, and how many generations they've been doing it. And if you're thinking to yourself, okay, so we understand just the food part of the Simbeosys thing, Nathan, that you're talking about, but what does that have to do with the spiritual side? Well, as I started off saying, the Bible tells us that famine is coming. And the ironic thing is that we live in a generation that since the industrial era, we've killed the soil. And just like when Joseph, started talking to Pharaoh in the Bible, he was just like telling him famine is coming, but we can do something about it. Well, I perceive that it's really strange, but the Lord has seemed to have chosen me to have the ability to not just show the world and tell the world how we can fix the soil in a fashion that will save lives, right? But also show a way to make it financially viable. And that's the part that right now the experts who are doing this are not able to make it financially viable. They are doing it, but the reason why it's not in the news, the reason why it's not like a crave, and like why, celebrities aren't endorsing it and making it a cool hip thing, or clothing lines aren't like for every shirt you buy, it's going to go towards this cause, is because right now it's a massive financial drain to heal the soil. There's not a system that we can put out right now that is financially viable, but it just so happens that I have come up with one. And I say I come up with one, but in reality, I believe that God bestowed upon me. And that is because I have friends in other industries outside of agriculture, people in other industries, oil and gas, entertainment and marketing. And so the thing is that most people are very knowledgeable in their one niche of existence. An engineer knows engineering, but that doesn't mean they necessarily know marketing, right? And a marketer knows marketing, but that doesn't necessarily mean they know nanotechnology, right? So you can understand what I'm saying here is that I'm not an expert in any one of these categories. Maybe I actually am considered an expert in marketing, but because that was my background for the last 20 something years, but entertainment marketing. But I'm not an expert in how to go out and actually do something to soil and make it rejuvenate or regenerate. But my friends are. They're literally the world experts on that. So what I've done is I've put together all these experts who are around me in all these different fields, and I have talked to them over the last basically 9 months, and I have asked them, are my numbers correct in that if we did this in your genre, if we did this in this genre, it would cost us A, which means we could sell it at B and our profit margins would be C. Is this correct? And so far, these experts have said, yes, Nathan, if you did it that way, we would actually be profitable. This would be economically viable. And so it's kind of a strange thing that I was asked to be a part of this in a county in which I live nearby here in Central Tennessee. I was given my first government contract to do this for the county and to help them out with food security and waste management and basically acting as the template for the rest of the literal world. I've also met with some senators and congressmen about how to form a special type of new company that would be based here in Tennessee. And this would allow also for no bank to quote unquote be needed or own a percentage of this company, but instead this new type of corporation that we can form here in Tennessee called a DAO, a DOA, I think it's DOA or DAO, means that the people would finance it. Almost like a Kickstarter kind of idea, except it's not a website. It's an official company and an official, legitimate, recognized, formation of a company. And all the people who basically make a contribution would own a tiny piece of it. But everybody coming together means that everybody owns it, and everybody will have a part of history, because we will have made the financially viable, earth-saving, food-producing, soil-repairing, energy, getting off the fossil fuel company. And it wouldn't be a bank, or it wouldn't be VC, or it wouldn't be tycoons who come in with their big money and control it all. And that's the thing, is like, this isn't a thing that would be cheap to do. It would be very expensive. However, like I said, it would be financially viable, meaning that it would be successful. It would have the ability to make very good profits if done right with these experts. So the spiritual side of that, I know I've been talking about the money side and the business side of it and kind of what it does earthly wise, but for the earth literally. But the spiritual side is that I'm reading the Bible and I'm hearing it talk about the famine. And I'm hearing it talk about how people will be saying God is late, and they will lose hope, and they will do really bad things or start to participate in bad activities. And father and son will fight. Mother and daughter will fight and turn each other in. And I'm starting to think to myself, as I read the scripture, like, what would drive a people to be so nasty to each other that like on a massive scale, to where the Bible has to warn us that people are going to be so nasty to one another and hate one another, they're going to turn each other in to the authorities because they don't like them, because they don't agree with what, let's say, the government wants you to think. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the best way to get people to go crazy is to starve them and to get people to do a thing that makes them horrible, horrible beings, is to starve them and remove the security of their future, and especially away from their children. And so for me, my heart is in the sense towards providing security so that people know they actually can have a future, that they can do something local. That's the other thing about Simbeosys. The company is about creating localized, I guess you would call them districts for each. It's 150-mile radius is the magic number. So one station of Simbeosys can heal the land, process the waste, both sewage and like any biodegradable waste, food, tree clippings, grass clippings, manure, all this kind of stuff. It can process all that, turn it into really good food, and turn it into energy, right? So we can get off of fossil fuels as tomorrow. The only thing we're lacking is the financing. So we can take away the power from basically the oil companies, right? The petroleum companies. We can all be driving around in cars and trucks and locomotives and boats and airplanes can all be doing what they do off of this fuel that I have, this fuel formula that I have, which is already recognized by the EU as a green energy source and is already recognized by United Nations as a carbon credit. And whether you agree or are a fan of United Nations is irrelevant. What matters is that when something has a carbon credit, according to United Nations, it means that that country that implements it gets a tax credit and doesn't have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars of fines. And that's really important because if they don't have to pay those fines, if they support this cause, it means that they can put that money into this cause, get their country off of fossil fuels, get their country with replenished soil, grow food, and they can become self-sustaining, which means also it will stop war. It'll stop warring between different countries. It will mean that people don't have to fight as much. And we know that there will be rumors of wars and wars. So I'm thinking as I'm reading the Bible that this thing that has been put on my lap here has a massive spiritual implication because it could actually give people hope during the roughest time of the world to come. And we can use this as a way to feed people, keep food, and keep its nutritional value, and cause people to have an opportunity to hear the gospel at the same time. Because if I'm doing it, the company is going to go hand in hand with ministry. I'm going to talk about how God has given me this and how God is the one guiding this whole thing. And some people may not like that, but I don't really care. That's never stopped me before. It's not going to stop me now. There's another part of it too that is a part that kind of hit home for Alex, and that was a little bit of an aspect he wasn't thinking about. The world has more people with mental illness or some type of illness, autism or something like that than ever before. I'm not opening up the door for this conversation to be about all the conspiracy theories and ideas of why that is, but we know it is a fact. We know that there are a lot more people with some type of illness than the world has had in at least our recorded history. And so one of the things is depression is through the roof. And we saw how people responded and what happened to us as citizens of the world when, COVID hit. And we saw how when people are removed from being able to talk to one another and interacting with one another, people spiraled into depression. And one of the number one ways that humans can fight the chemical imbalance in our body of that is depression is being social. We are social animals. And some of us are less social, obviously, than others, but we are social animals. And interacting with other humans, touching other humans, hugging other humans, seeing other humans, laughing and joking with other humans, like this is a way for us to actually correct the chemical imbalance. We are not just carbon existence. We are spiritual existence. We do exist as a spirit in a body, right? But we are not the body. So we need to have that human interaction. And even the Bible says, do not refrain from the gathering of the saints. Well, that's because we also are good when we come together, even for the Lord. And so the thing is that if we are healthy, if our food is filled with the nutrition it's supposed to have, it is the first sign. It is the first, I don't know how to say it. It's the first fight against illness. If your food is healthy, you won't be sick. If you have everything that your body needs, it has an immune system that will defend off anything. And so I'm not a doctor, but I know what the Bible says, and the Bible says that everything we need to be healthy is in the ground. It's in the trees. It's on the earth. Everything we need. I mean, if you think about it, medicine that they give us comes from where? It comes from earth, right? It comes from earth. So whatever they do to it, they do to it. But the truth of the matter is it comes from earth. Now, even the plants they're growing to make the pills we take, let's say, or the shots we get. Well, if those plants are also going to die because the soil that they're growing in sucks, we're not going to be able to even have medicine, my brothers and sisters. We're not going to even be able to have the Western medicine that the world is shoving down our throats or shooting in our arms. We're not going to even be able to have that if we don't heal the soil. So if we heal the soil, there's a win-win for everybody involved. And so again, if the part with depression that I think that some people aren't maybe understanding or thinking about is that it's known that when you go into a garden and you literally with some body part actually touch dirt or soil. Like there's a healing process. Some people call it grounding, but there's a healing process that begins in us. The Bible says that it is good for a man to labor with his hands, right? I believe that that is exactly what happens when we go out and we plant a plant and it grows and it produces some type of fruit, right? Or it just blooms and produces flowers. Like when you go out into the world, the earth, and you help it grow, there's this chemical feedback of you did something right. You matter. What you did made a difference. And that is a huge, huge impact on our soul. And the other thing is that the world wants us right now to live in a matrix. It wants us to live in virtual reality. It wants us to unplug, especially from the soil. It wants us to be locked in a concrete jungle, a sanitized jungle. And it doesn't want us to go out and get dirty. And it doesn't want us to go out and plant plants and have our own gardens and become self-sustaining. It doesn't want that. The world doesn't want that. But the thing is that's so insane is like when you go out and you have a plant, if you just have one plant and you put that plant as a seed and it grows and it blossoms and it does what it does, you can't help but look at it and feel good. It's quite remarkable. It's like part of our DNA. It's like the Adam and Eve part of us are kicking in, and the tending to the garden is just like, it literally like heals us in a psychological way. Do you understand? So this symbiosis thing is, it's not just for like mega farms. It's not just for dudes with tractors and truckloads of produce. The whole idea is to help everybody have a garden. Every single place, whether you're an apartment, whether you're a small house with a small little grass yard or something like that, but everybody gets a garden. Everybody starts making food for themselves, and then we create an exchange through an app that we're developing. So your garden, if you happen to be really good at growing potatoes, but you wanted some tomatoes, but you're just not good at growing them, through the app that we'd be creating, you could look on your phone, see who lives within your radius, who grows tomatoes, and they would have like a star rating like anything else, like on Amazon or Angie's List. And it would say, this person, everybody loves their tomatoes. And you could say, hey, I want some of your tomatoes. Can I have 4? And you would be able to go to the warehouse, the Simbeosys warehouse, and pick up tomatoes from that grower locally. Just as you would be able to take your potatoes, take it to the warehouse, and that tomato grower could eat your potatoes. And so this drives the price of produce and food down. It increases the health of not only the nutritional value of the food, but also the psychological value. And to me, that is spiritual, because if we do what the Lord told us to do and basically originally designed us to do, which is tend to the garden, I can't help but see God in every plant that grows. I can't help but see that it doesn't make any sense, folks. Like, you take the tiny seed. It doesn't even have to be a mustard seed. It could be any seed. It could be a pine cone. You take it, you do what you need to do, you plant it, and it grows, and it becomes a massive tree that produces like fruit and flowers for maybe like 100 years, and it duplicates itself, and like each generation is supposed to get better. Like, this is not the way that man makes stuff. There's nothing we make that produces itself and makes a better version of itself with no other like real input, right? So God's creation is all over gardening and farming. It's why Yeshua used wheat and tares and thistles and like all these natural things is because it's God's creation. It's his way of telling the story, right? And so I think that if there were more people putting their hand in soil and there were more people getting more nutrition from their food, I believe there'd be not only a greater level of sanity in the world and joy, but I believe more and more people would actually be looking at God. And I think it would be a lot easier for people to be told that God is real and that God exists. I perceive that gardening and farming is actually a testimony, is God's testimony of his creation. He's the creator, because even science can't explain life. Like, no scientist can explain life. They can say it happens, but they can't explain how, even to this day. So I just think that this is a massive ministry in all aspects. Healing the mind, feeding the hungry, clean water as well. Clean water is part of this as well because of a process that we would use naturally to clean the water. Getting off of fossil fuels, which would help stop that polar ice cap melt. It would also, allow people the opportunity to have more jobs, because it would actually, instead of drilling a hole into a giant barrel in the earth of oil, we would actually be making the fuel that I have out of plants, and it's regenerative. Like, we can grow it, and we can make this fuel anywhere in the world, anywhere. Even if we need a greenhouse in the middle of the worst desert or in a polar ice cap, we can grow this stuff anywhere, and that means that any automobile, any combustible engine can run off of this anywhere in the world. And so that's a remarkable claim. That's a remarkable, crazy thing. And it's real. And like I said, it's already registered with the EU and already registered with United Nations. So when we take a look at what God has put together here, one, for me as an individual, it's super overwhelming, which is why I need my 40 days to kind of really see if this is something the Lord wants me to do. Just because the pieces are there, I'm not necessarily believing it's something he wants me to do, but the pieces are there, and I perceive them as potentially end-time blessings, because it would help with famine, it would help with health, it would help with mental illness, it would help with community. I mean, all the things that the Bible is all about. Every single thing the Bible is about, this would do. But I think that a lot of people need to put their hands in soil. I think a lot of people need to walk on the ground and plant a plant. And I think we would have a lot more happy people. We'd have a lot less bickering and fighting. We'd have a lot less people, glued to their cell phones and getting that overdose of endorphins when they get the likes or they get the jokes or the memes or the tweets or whatever they call it. There would be so many more healthy people. And the other thing is that if the internet should be turned off, if the power should go out, this is also a solution to that, because generators can run off of this. So that means that massive generators can be created to run cities, places like Las Vegas, that if the Hoover Dam stops working, Las Vegas loses all of its electricity. Well, we could run off of this green energy and run all of Las Vegas. Every casino could have its own generator running off of this stuff, and it's not going to hurt the planet. You can run every automobile all around the world, and it's not going to hurt the planet. In fact, it'll help towards healing the planet, because we're not putting those poisons back in the air. So it's just there's just so much. I mean, can you imagine not losing electricity, people not being freaked out? I mean, not wondering, is my city going to still be here in a year? Is my house going to be warm in the winter? Is it going to be cooled in the summer? It's, that right there is a massive fear. Am I going to be able to eat? That's a massive fear. So I just perceive that this is an amazing opportunity for God to shine. And the other passage I think about a lot is the meek shall inherit the earth. And I think that's really, really interesting with what has been given to me here. And these are my own thoughts, you guys. This is a video of me sharing my thoughts about what's happening to me in my life and what's on the table in front of me. And the thing I think about, along with everything else, is what does that mean that the meek shall inherit the earth? And I've thought about it long and hard since the first time I read the Bible. And I think to myself, like the Amish, or people who are like don't use electricity, or people who aren't like part of the big city complex, energy suck drain, kind of thing. I feel like that passage is trying to say that people that are like the Amish, who kind of still use horse and carriage and plow their field with horsepower or mule or something like that, like that God recognizes that they are using his power and they're using his ways rather than, modern technology. That's how I thought about it when I first read. And I thought, well, because they spent their life when technology was around, they were going to gain, blessings of the earth when he comes back and makes the new earth, or terraforms the earth or whatever. I mean, these were just the thoughts I was having. But then I was thinking about too, like the times that we're in and how much people idolize space travel, living on Mars, living in virtual reality, not even having a wife or a husband, but rather having a sex robot, one that can even cook for you and will tell you everything that you want it to tell you. There are people who are working towards this life that's honestly like null and void, just like completely void of everything that God created. It's this kind of, I call it sanitized life. There's nothing that will test them, and therefore nothing that will strengthen them, right? It's just this totally bubbled life. And I think it's amazingly dangerous. But I think that the reason why people like that is because that's the bill of goods that the world is selling us. Like that's what we're being told is the future, and that the future is better than the past. And yet we have more mental illness than the world's ever seen. So I'm not in agreement. I'm not in agreement that that's the best life. I think that we can use what God has given us, and I think that we can use technology to help what God has given us and help men do what God has told us to do. And being virtual is not, I believe, in line with what God wants us to do. So that's just my own persuasion. And I am under the persuasion that when the meek shall inherit the earth, I think that those of us who have the opportunity in the end time specifically to be plugged in to all the trappings of the modern world, if we say no to that, or at least we say not in the way the world is selling it to us, but we say, I want to plant a plant. I want to grow my own food. I want to make the earth healthy. I want to replenish the soil, and I want to work with other humans. I want to meet with other humans, and I want to participate in creating community again, and not detaching from the world, but plugging into the people. I perceive that as a meek choice, and I think that there's a blessing for it. And I know I'm not doing a very good job of explaining what I explained to Alex. I know you didn't hear that conversation, but it was much better when I was explaining it to Alex. I wish I would have recorded it, but I hope that you do see the spiritual aspect. And I hope that you do understand that I don't think that people who would be living along the lines of the symbiosis provisions, if you will, or the symbiosis idea or practices, I guess is a good word, would be saying our Lord is late. Not as much as maybe somebody else. I mean, sure, if there's bombs dropping and there's horrific war, but I think that if you're enjoying growing food, if you're enjoying growing the fuel that burns the generator or works the generator that's not polluting the earth, you have the comforts of life without the guilt. You have the comforts of modern technology without the destruction. And I think that allows you to sleep good at night. And I think that allows you to look at the person who helped you accomplish that, whether it's 100 of your neighbors or whether it's 10,000 of your neighbors. And you can look at them and go, these people aren't my enemy. These people are not out to get me. These people are working towards the same goal as me, and that's to have a better life and to provide stability for our local area and our children. And I just think that screams the name Yeshua. I just think that screams, he is the provider. He is the great provider, and he's the great physician. The food is his. The soil is his. Let's let him do what he does for us. I think all of us want to be able to just put a hand on somebody, anoint them with some olive oil, and, their illness heals right away, which is great. And that does happen. I testify it does happen. But there is another type of healing. There's a healing that's daily. There's a healing that's perpetual every time we get up. And even Paul said, I am made new daily. I know he was talking about spiritual, but they say our bodies are made new every 7 years, that the cells you have now and 7 years from now, you won't have any of those cells. Your body will have completely recelled itself in all the parts where it does that in 7 years. Every 7 years, you get an entirely new body. And what you feed it and what you provide it in nutrition is what those cells will use to replace itself. And that's why we also have so much cancer and illness today. It's because we're not giving our body the things it needs to heal itself and do what it does daily. I'm not talking about the quick fix when you cut it or break it. I'm talking about the perpetual regenerative life that our bodies provide us without us ever asking it to or ever doing anything. There's just so much more that the Lord gives us, guys, that we have become honestly completely blind to. And Simbeosys, in my opinion, Simbeosys is just a living testimony of saying we've been doing it wrong, but look, God has had an answer there the entire time. Simbeosys is not Nathan Wheeler's answer or the answer of all the geniuses that I happen to be friends with that will come together to make this happen. It's God's answer. It's been there since the creation of the garden, and it's not going away, but we as humans are living in a way that's killing it. And the thing is I don't think it's a coincidence that if the Lord, I'm not saying I know, but if the Lord wants me to do this, the thing is that he's not allowing somebody who would say, look at my idea. This isn't a situation where there's a person who would say, look what I created. I figured out the way to solve human problems. It's a guy who would say, I didn't figure out anything. I didn't even want to do this in the first place. And the Lord called me to do it. And all of this has been his doing. The meeting of the people, the timing, the putting it together, the formula itself for the fuel, all of it is something that God has done, literally. So I don't think it's a coincidence that if there's another part of it, I'm gonna share something kind of pretty crazy. You guys may think I'm insane, but I'm gonna share this with you because this is part of it. This is a huge part of it for me. You know that in the Bible, when it talks to the prophets and it says, eat the scroll and don't tell anybody what you're reading, because it's like God doesn't want anybody to know between that day when he gave the prophet, either Daniel or the writer of Revelation. But, eat the book, eat the scroll, and don't tell anybody what you're going to eat. And it's sweet on the lips like honey, but it's bitter in the stomach. Roll with me on this. This passage has been a riddle for me since the very first time I ever read it. And I was like, what in the world could that possibly be? And I'm still thinking to this day, what could it possibly be? But I think this, at least, is truth of it. It's something that is going to benefit God's people. Because if it wasn't going to benefit God's people, he would have told us, just like all the disasters and wars, like 1/3 of the world's population or 1/4 of the world's 1/3 of the world's population is going to die from the Sixth Trumpet War. And famine and pestilence and all this stuff is like another fourth and then another fourth. Like that's a lot of people dying in a world that now has 8 billion people or 9 billion whenever it happens, right? So I think about this passage that says, eat it. It will be bitter. It'll be sweet to the lips, but bitter in your stomach. And I think to myself, like, the sweet part of Simbeosys and what is happening is that it's a solution to a problem, and it's a solution to sustaining life as the world comes to an end. But the bitter part of it is once that sinks in, once you realize really what Simbeosys is, if it is what it is. Again, this is all my brain going through these thoughts. If it is what it is, it means that we are actually at the real end times. And that's the bitter part. That's the part that I think hits people in the gut because they realize that they're not going to be able to help everybody because not everybody's going to embrace such a lifestyle, such a meek lifestyle, and that we will return more to the original reason of existence on earth rather than the virtual future. And when we look at the ones we love who want that virtual futuristic life on Mars future rather than a return to the garden future, we know that the Bible says that there's demise. And I think that while it's sweet to hear that there's a solution, there's a bitterness to know that it won't be embraced by everybody. And there's a bitterness to know that the other parts of the Bible for end times will also be coming true in our lifetime. So this is the way that I'm realizing that if this is what it looks like it could be, it's literally playing a role in biblical end times. And that's a lot to have on the shoulders of a person. And that's the reason why I want to take 40 days to really seek out the Lord and see if this is really what he wants me to do, or if this is just, a temptation from the devil. Like, I need to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that this is his idea. It's his plan. It's his, even though everything has come together and it all points towards him, the devil comes as an angel of light, right? He doesn't come with a spiky tail and a pitchfork and horns. He comes as an angel of light. And so I want to put everything, especially anything that has to do with literally affecting lives, saving lives, affecting people all over the world, or especially putting my face on a giant target of the bad people in the world, because that's exactly what it would do. It would put my face on a ginormous target, which is why a crowd-funded version of this company would be the only way to do it. I couldn't do it through the money of the billionaires, because they would, of course, want to shut it down. So it has to be the people who want this that rise up and come together and make it happen. So it's another weird thing that this new type of company has been formed and is legally allowed and will protect anybody who gets involved. It's just, the timing is strange, but it just has to be God. It can't be because of the alignment of the stars. It can't be because look at all the signs, right? Those aren't proof of God's will. God may use those things if they've been pre-prophesied, but if they haven't been pre-prophesied, there's always the aligning of stars and all sorts of things, right? Remember maybe when you had your first love in high school, or when you were a kid or college or whatever age you were at, and everything seemed to line up. They came from the same town, or they had the same favorite animal, or they liked the same favorite drink or something like that, and you were just like, look, the stars are aligning, oh my gosh, and we finish each other's sentences. It must mean that we're going to be in love forever and never after, right? But then you realize 2 weeks later, they're like the worst person in the world, and you hope you never see them again. So I know that the stars aligning doesn't mean that it's from God. And I have learned that lesson the hard way, like all of us have, but I'm not going to put this ministry in jeopardy. And when I say put this ministry in jeopardy, that's the other part of this for me. If I do Simbeosys, it would take a massive amount of my time, and it would take a massive amount of my mental energy, which means that I wouldn't be able to give the massive amount of energy and time I've been giving to Yeshua Network over the last specifically 3 years since doing this full time. And if I don't do the ministry, which I know for a fact is of God, and I'm going to something that I was tricked by the stars aligning to think I'm doing something again for that is of God, I would be super, super upset with myself and disappointed as I look back on my life or on Judgment Day and be like, wow, I really got duped by the devil, or I really got duped by life, and I made a massive mistake, and I could have spent the rest of my years, doing what I knew was of the Lord. But and so whether it's my time, or whether it's also Yeshua Network has gotten to a place where it kind of needs a graduation. It needs to come out of its cocoon as a caterpillar and turn into a butterfly. It is matured to a point where there are so many people who are now reading the entire Bible straight through every word. There are so many people who have really sought holiness and really understand the word surrender. They really understand having a servant's heart, and they're working towards that life, which means that Yeshua Network can't stay the way that it is. We have to be able to provide more. We have to be able to do more. And so it's ironic that Simbeosys could actually provide the things that Yeshua Network is also in need of. That Simbeosys could provide ministries all around the world with that thing that many of them are missing to take their ministries to the next level. And so I can't but help. I can't but help my brothers and sisters take a look at Simbeosys and keep thinking it's from God. But I am confessing, he has not told me it's from him. And so he has told me Yeshua Network is from him. He has told me Truth Me Free Ministries is from him. These are not things I'm confused about. He has definitely told me Be the Light is from him. He's told me Entire Bible Read Through is from him. He's told me 40-Day Holiness Challenge is from him. But he has not told me that Simbeosys is from him. And so I'm at that crossroad, and that's what the 40 days that I'm going to be, surrendering and seeking the Lord on is, because I'm hoping. Hope is what you get before the faith. I'm hoping that I'll get the faith, that God will speak to me about this Simbeosys thing in a timely fashion, because as I said, I've already got a government contract. I've already got a county that is losing its landfill in the very near future. And they have had this issue for 20 years. And right now, I'm their hope. I'm their hope of that massive problem where there's no place to put their garbage, that they can especially afford to put it. I'm their hope to solving that problem, and the clock is ticking. The landfill is going to be closing because it's already basically full. So, there's pressure on me, the human, to figure out, is this something I'm going to do, or is this something I need to pan off to somebody else? And if I do, then who do I pan it off to? And there's certain aspects I can't pan off. I cannot pan off the fuel thing. Because it can't be taken by somebody who's evil. So I can never trust it. It's probably the most untrustable thing to somebody else ever, unless God literally says to me, Nathan, give it to this person, right? Which would have to be like, not somebody comes to me and says, God told me you're supposed to give that to me. It would have to be a person I've never met before, and or something like that. And God says, this is the name of the person you're going to give this to. And then in the future, after he says that, I meet the person and he says, this is the one I was talking about. Just like what happened with Paul and his eyes and the man who took the scales off for him, right? He said, Paul's going to come and you're going to take the scales off, right? So it has to be something along those lines, because it's that level of a thing to have a fossil fuel replacement fuel that's green and financially viable. Like, it's the most insane thing, in my opinion, earthwise. It's the most insane invention ever. So especially for our time. So, I can't give all aspects away, which means that it points towards me having to do it. So, and so on the other side of it, just before I wrap this up, I know I kind of mentioned this side, but just so people also understand, I also see it that if I decide in my flesh not to do Simbeosys, because I'd rather spend my time on Yeshua Network and reading the Bible and fellowshipping and doing what we've always been doing, I would rather spend my time doing that, yes. But then I think about all the people who will indeed starve to death, will indeed not have hope, will indeed not have the garden or the replenished soil. And I think about the nations that will make food their weapon against the populations, because they will use food as a way to get the people to do anything and everything they want them to do, to conform to anything and everything, like taking a mark or a chip or whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is, a tattoo that's of the worst enemy the world has ever seen. There's no better way to get people to do something they don't want to do than to starve them to do it. And so the spiritual implications of me not doing this, the weight on my shoulders of the fact that I do indeed have a solution in my hands at this time, and already government contracts to execute. Like, there's a very, very extremely heavy weight on my shoulders about this, guys. And the death threat thing, to my personal life, like, I have to be extremely wise with how I roll this out, because I know for a fact my life is in grave danger the moment I actually step forward in executing this. Technically, my life is in grave danger already telling you guys in the world that it exists. So I have to take all these things into account. And this is not, this isn't like just a fun, it's not like a cool sunglasses, or it's not like a jean company or a car company or a rocket company or a drone company. Like, This is a save lives and promote healthy mindset and fight against the workings of the evil powers that be business. That's like insane. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not boasting. I'm telling you, this is not what I want to do. This is not what I want to wake up and be spending my time doing. But I can't help but notice that everything to me seems to point towards the glory of God. And I believe that along with Yeshua Network and the life that I live and the way that I live, that these things would bring also souls onto God. So I can't write that part off. And the weight of that and the guilt of that, if I don't move forward with it, is I don't know if it's something I could live with. I especially as the world starts to literally crumble before our eyes. I don't know how much I'd beat myself up if I saw that I didn't do it. But, you know, like I said, I can't just jump to something because it looks good. And just because it looks like it points to God. And I already have something that for sure is of God. And I know that the Lord tells us to change. I know that we get comfortable in our situations and then he asks us to step out of that comfort zone time and time again. I know that I never wanted to do this online ministry stuff. He literally had to kill me to get me to do this. I don't want him to have to kill me to get me to do Simbeosys. I don't know if it's my own angst and my own anxieties and my own worries or my own overwhelmed life that has caused me to not hear from him on this. And so that is the reason for the 40 days I'm going to take starting tomorrow. I was going to start it yesterday on Shabbat, but I was not well. As you guys saw from the post I made, I had this crazy migraine headache, which doesn't make any sense that I had one. So I'm taking it as it's from the Lord somehow. It's something he wanted me to have, so I wouldn't start or post this video yet. And ironically, some things with Simbeosys, ever since I announced the video, ever since I made the video of me in the truck talking about me coming to this crossroads and the idea of me taking the 40 days, ever since I made that video, things have started to move even more forward with Simbeosys. So that was weird. So I don't know. I think I do feel that the 40 days is something I'm supposed to do. I was praying about that first, though, because I didn't know if it was something I was supposed to do. I do feel it is something I'm supposed to do. I do believe that this ministry is going to be stronger because of it, and it's going to change over the next 40 days because of it. And that has a lot to do with you guys and what you guys have, what you guys will do with it, and what you will do with those 40 days. And then also, I believe he will speak to me one way or another. And I believe that this whole experience, if you will, that you're witnessing through video here on Yeshua Network of me doing this and me seeking him like this is a testimony in of itself. And I think that that's a really important testimony. And I think that that's part of the reason why he wants me to do it. I think he wants to have the demonstration of a man who doesn't just say, seek the Lord and trust in him and his ways, but a man who does exactly what he preaches. And that is really important to me. It's important that you guys see that I myself take my own advice. And I look forward to seeing the fruits. So on that note, the 40 days of what I just shared with you and the weight that's on my shoulders from all this will look like we will be starting. I'm going to make the videos, I'll post the videos on Yeshua Network to start on January 1st. Again, at like 3 a.m. in the morning, it will post, I think 4 o'clock New York time. So put it that way, 3 a.m. Nashville time. But 4 o'clock a.m. New York time, we're going to post the 40-day holiness challenge again. I just think it's the best time of year. You're starting off the year seeking the Lord, seeking, to be holy, to be right with him. And so I'll post that whether I'm online or not. So you'll see those videos. I'm not saying I'm not going to come on and make any videos. I am saying I'm probably not going to respond to any emails or any comments. That doesn't mean that I won't see any comments or fighting going on. The phone tells me when there's issues on the page. So hopefully there won't be any of that. I don't believe I'm going to totally be gone. I may not comment. I may not like. I may not say anything. But and I don't even know how much I'm going to tune in for the 40 days, because right now my greatest drain of energy and my greatest struggle is Yeshua Network, because it needs healing. Like I said, it needs to break out of its cocoon, and it needs to become a butterfly. And I don't know how to do that either. So that's the other thing. I'm dealing with both of these things at the exact same time. And ironically, like I said, Simbeosys can fix the other. And Yeshua Network can bless and be the foundation to the other. So for 40 days, we will do the on the 1st, that will still happen. We won't be doing entire Bible read through for the whole 40 days. I apologize for that. I know that sets us back, but I think if you watch this video, hopefully you've watched it all, you understand the weight that's on my shoulders, and you understand the level of the thing at least I'm dealing with. Maybe you would think that this isn't a big deal and you would have the ability to just come up with a thing that you would do. But my thing is, I've learned that when I do anything just because it looks good, it can so blow up. It can blow up so bad. And I don't think I could handle Yeshua Yeshua Network being tainted, or not tainted, but being lacking the input that I have been able to give it. Because of this, if it wasn't of God. And then the other thing is I couldn't handle, Simbeosys failing if it wasn't because God told me to. If it was just like my wild hair at my back end that I just decided to do it. So it can't be that. It just can't be that. That's not how I work. That's not how I will work. It has to be because God told me to. Because to be honest, I'm absolutely 100% unequivocal, undoubtable, terrified of making moves in my life that are not something God told me to do, because I've had my backside handed to me by him so many times when I've moved and it wasn't him, and he didn't tell me to move. And I don't think that everybody has a life like that. I think many of us can make choices in our life for ourselves, and God will honor those choices and he will respect those choices. I am not saying I'm better than anybody, but I am testifying, and 9 years of my life have been captured on video. I will say that the Lord absolutely has me on a short leash, and that for whatever reason, whether it's because of Simbeosys or whether it's because Yeshua Network and Truth Me Free Ministries, whatever it is, I don't have the luxury of just waking up one day and saying, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to give it on to the Lord. He does not like it when I do that. He likes it when I say, I'm not doing anything unless he tells me to do it. And so since he's not telling me, I really need to take this time. So I do want everybody to understand the 40 days is going to probably be very lacking in Nathan. I'm not giving any prophecy. I'm not saying I'm fasting any food. I'm not saying that I'm doing kind of the 40-day holiness challenge here. That's not what this is for me. It's more of a be still, remove all the noise from my life. Yeshua Network, it's winter, so there's not a whole lot of yard work. There's not a whole lot of property management I'm going to have to do. So, and by the time this is done, the snow will probably be giving its last snow. And then as it melts, I'll be able to be ripe and ready for moving into my yard duties here on the property I live at, and also jump back into ministry. I'm not saying that Yeshua Network is done. I'm not saying Truth Me Free is done by any means. That's really important for me to share as well. All I'm saying is I don't know to what balance and what ratio I'm supposed to do what. I don't even know what direction I'm supposed to step in. So that's what this is all about. And so I gave the preference of, I'm not saying I'm fasting. I'm not saying I'm doing the holiness challenge type of thing. I don't want people thinking that that's what this is. It's a 40 days of quieting the world, quieting my own thoughts, and being still like Yeshua did in the desert, where he was just meditating before his ministry really began. I'm not going to say I'm meditating all day long either. And I'm just sitting in, under a tree or in my house, like just meditating all day long. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that every day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do as I've been doing, which is surrender the day to the Lord. But I'm removing as many distractions from my life as I possibly can, so that I can organically and authentically move in the way and hear what the Lord has to tell me. When I have things I have to do because I have this earthly obligation, then I get distracted and I get overwhelmed and I don't have the ability to do it. So I do appreciate everybody who is supporting this. I've not done this in ever. I've not had a day off of ministry in 9 total years, so I don't want anybody thinking that this is some vacation. I'm not going to the Bahamas. I'm not going to Florida. I'm not going to Hawaii. I'm not leaving my house, right? I might go to the grocery store. I might go to my friend Alex's house, but I'm not like going on a vacation. This is a time for me to seek the Lord. That's it. That's all it is. It's not, some people are saying, I'm glad you're going to be having this vacation, or I'm glad you're having this kind of fun time. No, that's not what it is at all. I'm trying to hear whether God wants me to do something that could save the world and put a giant target on my head, and also how to guide Yeshua Network in ministry, in soul feeding and gathering of the saints. Like it's not a light thing. None of this is a light topic. So it's a very heavy seeking the Lord. And I'm not saying that for pity. I'm saying that so just, I don't want people thinking that while you're not seeing me, I'm out gallivanting around having a grand old time and, living a vacation or something. That's not what this is at all. It might even be boring to anybody in the outside world, because I literally am going to try to be still as much as possible and truly try to seek the Lord as much as possible. So I haven't explained it to that extent. What does that mean for Yeshua Network? As I said, no EBRT. Yes, the 40-day holiness challenge will start on January 1st. Yes, we will be the light on the 22nd. And if the Lord gives me a thing and he says, Nathan, go online and make a video, I will make a video. But if he doesn't say to do that, I won't. I will not be responding to any emails. So that's another thing. Share this, at least this last clip here, with anybody that needs to know. Nathan's not getting back to my emails. Does anybody know if he's okay? I'm not going to be responding to emails at all, because the emails are a massive time and energy drain for me. And I don't say that as I'm complaining. It's just that none of them are lighthearted, right? And they take up like hours of my time each. So, and that's great. I love serving in that way. But that is also part of the noise in my head and the anxiety in my head, or the frustration in my head, that's not allowing me to hear the Lord right. So if you write me starting tomorrow, so if you want to write me tonight. Anything you want to write me tonight. If I don't respond to you for 40 days, just do not be offended and do not be mad at me. And I know that some of you have written me already and I have not responded. A lot of that has to do with the fact that what you're writing me about has to do with the future of Yeshua Network. And since I don't know, I have nothing to respond to you about. Okay. So yeah, post maybe if he tells me to. Emails, comments, absolutely not. So be blessed. Be the blessing. Thank you, every single one of you, for supporting me and encouraging me spiritually, praying for me, lifting me up in during this time, because it is a thing that will affect, honestly, it already affects millions of lives. So this really is not a small thing. I feel like if I talk about it, I sound like I'm boasting, and I'm super not, but it's huge. It's super, super huge. So yeah. Be blessed. Be the blessing. I truly love every single one of you. I look forward to seeing every single one of you, and even more of you, when the 40 days is done. For whatever holiday, hopefully the biblical ones you'll be celebrating, may they be blessed. May you and your family be blessed this holiday season. May the Holy Spirit fill you and be in you. May the blood of Christ cover you and wash you completely and utterly clean. May no devil or demon have anything or any right to you. Whatever blood ties that are on you, may they be washed clean and broken. May you be the new link in the God chain. And may all that you are and all that you be in this world be for his glory and for his service. And may we all seek him before we seek the world. In all that we do every day, may you pray to him before your feet hit the ground, not just tonight or tomorrow, but every day for the rest of your life. And if you want to know more about me or about what this ministry is about, I encourage you go to youtube.com/Yeshua Network. You will see all the videos on there. I speak blessing onto every single one of you, my brothers and sisters, now and forever. I love you all. Be blessed. Be the blessing.